Okay, so, hello, welcome. I am working on a cardigan. It's a very big cardigan. I love very much. I started this on Thanksgiving and I got to have my grandparents over and one of my cousins, and that was a nice experience. And for some reason, during that holiday, I just went like ham on crochet. I like 3 days and 30 hours work of work. I got this crochet ring, but it's not working very well. It's a little peacock. But I'll put it down for now. I have a lot of thoughts on family because a lot of family events have been happening recently. Very thankful for mine. Familial love is very interesting and different, especially because there's kind of roles of caretaker or the one taken care of, the younger relatives, and the older ones. I think it's very important to hold on to as much family as you can. And I know for some people, they can't have their family in their lives for safety. But even if you have a lot of confrontations and conflict with your family, you have conflict because you love each other. When it comes to like malice, like you have to let go. But conflict and frustration, that comes from a place of love and wishing more for them, right? Like you wish they'd stop gambling or break up with that crappy boyfriend and learn how to be responsible with money, or like leave the hometown they're not happy in, or maybe they need to get off the couch. Some people need to settle down. We have family that we wish the best for, and we think we know what's good for them. And as I'm growing into more of like an adult in my family rather than like the kid being taken care of, I never felt the responsibility of taking care of family. But for those at the age or level where you have to take care of your family, know that you can't change them, change their behavior. You can tip them off, like, hey, do you know there's this really good sparkling water instead of having like Fanta every meal kind of deal. You can hint at things, and it's heartbreaking news, but you can't change them or tell them you need to get a job kind of deal. Because they need to realize that for themselves, and you can't make them get the job. You can set up boundaries, like you can't stay here anymore if you're not doing anything kind of deal. But at the end, it's up to them to take control of their lives, and all you can do is love them. And loving people is never the way you expect to. Sometimes you gotta love people at a distance. Sometimes loving people doesn't mean being kind to them, it means being harsh on them, and critical, or giving them space to figure it all out, and for them to giving them space to realize what they need. That's really tricky. But okay, yeah, it's so hard being with my family, yada yada yada, we don't get along, black sheep kind of situation. Why should you still try and hold on to that family? I think what's really cool about family is that they kind of show you who you are or how you were made kind of deal. Even if there's a lot of changes to how you want to be compared to your family, it shows you where you came from. I think about my situation where both of my parents didn't have a lot growing up, and seeing how that affected them and their relationship with money and how I was taught my relationship with money, and I didn't have to worry about finances. All I had to learn was like the value of things. Like, toys aren't given to you every time you want them, they are earned, and they are planned. If you want something, either you have to wait a while for your allowance to build up, or you have to wait for a report card that's really good, kind of deal. Starting from a place where you think a credit card is free money and getting to the point where you're reading books and books about, like, is cryptocurrency a thing you get into, stocks, indexes, Roth IRA, all these new things we're learning about. It's amazing to see how far my family's come with that, or learning new things that helped one family member and we want to translate it to the next family member. Like, hey, we learned this, it's very useful. It breaks your heart when they don't take it, because you saw how much it benefits you, but they don't realize how much it'll benefit them. So all you can do is keep loving them and try and plant seeds of ideas, but for your own sanity, you have to accept that they might not grow, but they're still worthy of love nonetheless. Unless it's like actually hurtful and malice, again with the whole, there's conflict because you care about someone, and then there's malice. I've met some extended family that I didn't know. Well, I knew they existed, but I never met them. And I finally got the opportunity to meet them and hear about relatives and what they're doing and what they're going for in life. And it is so uncanny, or makes you feel very connected to learn, oh, that's where I got my spontaneity from. Or this food recipe came from this relative. I thought it came from the other side of my family. It's really cool that you have someone to take you in, and it's just like your birth right to have people automatically care about you, and want to hear about you. I love that family is, I guess, a never-ending project or craft or something you can build. And it never means, I guess it's never complete because it keeps going, right? The project and the family that you'll never see because it keeps on growing, but you can make your corner of it as nice as you can. One thing my family had to grow from was buying things to appear well off versus buying things that made you well off. Like, are you getting the new nice bag, or are you paying your electricity bill this month? Especially for family members who have kids, are you buying the kids what they really need, like textbooks and resources to help them grow as a human being? Or are you buying them instant pleasures? And I love a good sweet little treat, but what's the right amount? And when do you have to be like, sorry, that's not in our budget, and you may not like it now, but you need pencils for class. What I have right now is a lot of things: friends, family, good health. Wouldn't say financial stability yet, but financial growth and career growth, which is really cool. Never thought I'd have. Trying to think about how I can give back to my family, because again, you can't fix anything. And throwing money at relatives that don't know how to use it, that's not gonna help. Giving wisdom that nobody wants to hear, it's not gonna help. Telling people what to do, it's not gonna help. And I'm thinking, how can I be there? And I think for some relatives, they're just, life's quiet, and you can just tell them how they're doing. Don't let them feel left out, kind of deal. I think that's a really cool way to give back to your family, is just let them know little things going on in your life. in my immediate family, they're doing fine financially, and I feel like the biggest thing I can give them is time, because a lot of the day is maintaining things like cooking the food, doing the dishes, keeping the house clean, keeping things organized, planning out the groceries, fixing up all the cars, maintenance on the house. And I think the way I've been thinking of how I can give back to my family is give them a little bit of time in the afternoon by taking care of more of the chores. That sounds so privileged of me to be like. So what I'm trying to say is chores used to be a chore, but reframing chores in my mind is, this is a way for me to give my mom time to sit down with her wine and journal like she loves to do. Doing the dishes and taking care of the kitchen and cleaning up after dinner. That gives time for, it gives my family time. And I think they appreciate it. And I think it gives them something they haven't had. I especially imagine like having like young kids. You never had time to yourself. And I think hopefully taking on the load of taking care of the house, I give them time to just be with themselves. That's how I'm giving back. I think my personal goal is, I love control and understanding and knowing things and predicting the future. I'm gonna really try to just accept I don't know what's coming, for better or for worse. I can get the degree, I can, I don't know, marry the rich guy, and it doesn't mean I'm gonna have a career, it doesn't mean I'm gonna be financially stable, it doesn't mean I'm gonna have kids or not. Nothing is really known about the future, and I'm trying to accept that because it helps with the pain of disappointment when life doesn't go with how you expected. If you don't have expectations but just do good and self-fulfilling things, then you can just be surprised with all the nice stuff that comes up. Family's really cool because there's a lot of love, and yes, it's hard because sometimes what you need is not exactly what they'll give. They've seen you through your worst, and they still love you, and that's really beautiful. Going back to like, sometimes it's not the way you need or expect love, but there is some there. You really have to look for it. I've heard in a lot of Asian households, the parents don't say I love you, but when they try to say I'm sorry or they try to sympathize with you, they just cut you fruit and give you fruit. That's, I mean, I get that a little bit, but it's, in those type of households, it's the actions, not the words. And maybe you just need to hear it every now and then, but I think still appreciating what you got is really good. I think the only time you can really help your family or the people that you want to help, that you love, is when they finally ask for help. And you have to be wise about how you're giving them help. If they're asking for something you don't think is going to help them, use your judgment. But that's when you can really be there. It's always be available for when they're ready, you know? I think that's cool. I forget what I was talking about. Being there for your family is being ready for when they need you. But till then, all you can do is keep developing yourself to be reliable. Another thing I wanted to show, last week I was not feeling good, like in my woes, whatever. I've tried to just like be rational, think it out, but sometimes you just gotta let it out, and I find art and creation to be the thing. So I made this little painting. First of all, I'm inspired by, I think the artist is Little White Monsters on Instagram. Yeah, really cool art. I recommend to follow. So I made this painting kind of in inspiration. I kind of combined some motifs from their art and kind of putting it into the world of The Little Prince. It's one of my favorite books from last video I talked about. Yeah, and it felt good kind of putting down my feelings on canvas. Kind of like putting your thoughts down on paper, just in a more abstract way. And that's what didn't make me feel better, but it was honestly good to get it down and to kind of contextualize what's going on in my head in a way I understand, right? I know some art is meant to be private, but I think if you make art, it needs to be shared with the world, even if it's not the highest quality, even if there's no technical value to it. Someone's gonna resonate with that, and I think that's why I'm making these videos as well. If nobody sees it, I learn a lot from making these videos. I'm getting a lot out of this, and maybe somebody else will get something out of it too. Okay, don't mind the curler. My bangs have been a mess. I think this is the wrong size. I usually use a bigger curler, but whatever. I wanted to talk about being honest with people. Very valuable, very important. Why? Because respect. Either gaining respect. Yeah, it's mostly about gaining respect. So let's say you're being honest to someone you already do respect. It helps reciprocate. Like, when you're being honest with someone, you have to state, hey, this was my intention. Like, you could be upfront about, I changed my mind, I changed my intentions, that's why I'm being honest with you. You can never go wrong being honest with the right person, because the right person will go along the ride with you, no matter if you're honest with them or not. Like, let's say it's a relationship or a friendship. If they leave, it's good because you're finally being honest and like kind of owning yourself, or being yourself, authentically yourself around a certain person. If you're being honest to people you don't respect, or like, let's say it's a stranger, it's a date, they're taking you out, it's nice, but you're just not feeling the date. Being honest with them, like, hey, it's been a great time, it's nothing against you, it's just like, I don't think we have the same, I don't really resonate with a lot of things you are passionate about, and I don't feel it. It's very respectful to just be upfront and not waste people's time. I had a guy ask me out once, and I was just like not in the mood to date, and like I texted him later that day, hey, it was nice talking to you, I wish you the best, but I am not what you're looking for, like, have a nice life. And I think that guy appreciated being told up front, hey, I don't think this is it, rather than being led on and ghosted and like confused. Last aspect with being honest, I think being honest with yourself. So being honest with yourself gives you the respect you deserve. Yes, you deserve respect. So let's say you have a fear of driving, right? And you got to be honest with yourself. This is an expensive fear to have. It's makes it harder on your friends or family if they have to drive you everywhere. It's hurtful to your wallet because you're Ubering everywhere, and it's inhibiting your life in ways that you want to be free of. Being honest of, hey, you have this fear, and being honest with yourself of why you have it. And then you can take the next steps of talking to people that can impart wisdom of having this type of fear or this conflict. And if you're constantly in denial about something like a fear of driving, you're never going to get anywhere. Vroom, vroom, you know? I think being honest with yourself, it doesn't fix everything, but it helps when you're on a very confusing path. Like, let's say you notice you're very defensive around people. You don't let your guard down. You don't let people in. You realize you're like maybe just mean to people so that way they don't get close. You're not like all of a sudden chipper and nice because you're honest with yourself that you're mean and you don't like that. It at least gives you a sense of awareness as you're figuring out how to be the person you want to be. You're at least honest, and this is also like acceptance. You're honest with who you are at the moment and what you've done. Like, let's say going to the gym, and I've been telling everybody, yeah, want to go back or want to go to the gym to like look swole, you know, like change my physique, be stronger. And then you go, or you're not going, and you're gonna be like, why am I not going? And then maybe you get honest with yourself and realize, maybe one common example, you only went to the gym to get back at your ex and be better looking, right? That's one. You're only going to the gym because you want people to see you a certain way, right? And then you can start doing the hard work of, oh, I am people pleasing. And doesn't mean stop going to the gym. You can still find a lot of virtues in it, like your health, well-being, strength. You're changing your intentions of why you're going to the gym, and then you're also investigating why you care about how people look at you, which is, there's validity in that. You can start realizing your intentions of, am I working out in a place of insecurity, or am I working out in a place of self-improvement? That's a really interesting thought, and I've been on both ends of that. So I think being honest with yourself helps with that. Another thing I wanted to do, I finished 2 books this month. First, I finished A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Honestly, didn't really like it. I think the writing style, it's like character or protagonist to reader, and I just felt like it was such an info dump on the magic system, and I prefer like a show don't tell kind of way. So this book wasn't really made for me. Second book I read is Happily by Sabrina Ora Mark. I really like this. It's not like my favorite read, but it was really interesting going into Sabrina's like thought process, and you can tell she really studied fairy tales, and I loved how she connected it to her personal life and the metaphors. I think my favorite chapter was her understanding her relationship with her stepdaughter. I kind of went into this book looking for the questions of like, okay, she lives like, let's say, a normal standard life. I'm looking for like a truth or like an epiphany, and I think reasonably so this book doesn't give it to you. It's, you go through life, you experience it, you try to understand it, it doesn't make sense, you keep going. And I think that's what this book kind of helps me with. Of course, as soon as I stop recording, I find it. So last book is Tao Te Ching. It's a book about Taoism, I think the teachings of Lao Tzu, which I think translates to like old master or something like that. It's another book of like, if you're trying to find the truth, or like a big epiphany. I don't know if this is exactly it either. It's a book of poetry. It's almost like a meditation, and it gets you into the flow and thought process of the Tao. And I find so much comfort or resonation with Eastern philosophy rather than Western philosophy. It kind of clicks a bit more in my head, and it's so vague and almost contradictory, which I think is really fun. Like, it encourages you to think and learn and grow, and also like says be common folk, like be plain, don't, the scholars are never happy. So I love how the contradictions make you think about like what is the true message, because if you take it word by word, it doesn't fully make sense. It's you can't take it by its word, but try and get the deeper meaning of what it's trying to say, right? Yeah, I really like the book. It's short, simple. I love simplistic things because I find a lot more depth in simple things rather than complex ideas. That's how my brain works. Thinking back to one of the clips I made earlier about family. It's hard to say stuff about family because I know everybody has such a different relationship to it. But from what I've found, it's so important for me to love my family, even if there are kind of aspects to it that are more of like a cautionary tale for me than advice. But I do find a lot of advice. Even if I'm extremely different, there's that weird sense of connection and belonging. And like, it makes me think about that Taoism book and the contradictions. Like, I feel different, I feel connected. I'm a part of this still, and it's still a part of me. Love your family, and it can be hard for some dynamics, but they're yours, and that's something that's so beautiful, is when something is yours, because you cannot say that about a lot of things. Yeah.